particularly affected by government pricing pressures this year. So what's the impact been to date, and how much do you see this remaining a feature? Are we seeing a step change here?
Well, in 2011, we estimate that our top-line revenues decreased by about $1 billion as a result of government interventions across the major markets in Europe as well as the US. So I think that's a significant change in how much impact government pricing actions has had. But we don't yet see it as a step change. I think it could potentially come that if it's sustained, but at this point, not yet.
But you do appear to have delivered a fairly solid set of numbers. So talk me through the underlying performance. Were there any brands or areas that you'd highlight?
Well, I think that there are some key growth brands that delivered at or above our expectations. Crestor, Symbicort, and Seroquel, the whole Seroquel franchise, which has been very good. And I think the other area where we've seen significant growth is in the emerging markets. So we've had continuous sustained double-digit revenue growth in the emerging markets over the last several years. And I think that allows us to recognize the importance of those markets, especially for the future. So we're committed to doubling our business there over the course of the next few years.
And sales look flat, but there has been a big jump in profit. So talk me through the difference there.
Well, revenue was driven by our three growth brands, Crestor, Symbicort, and Seroquel, but the big difference in profit was really AstraZeneca and the sale of AstraZeneca, which accounted for more than 2/3 of the total increase and increment in profit.
And how much impact on performance are you seeing because of the ethical changes to marketing practices that you've introduced?
Well, the changes that we put in place for the healthcare professionals that we deal with, I think have the potential to create some nice opportunities for a different approach and a different dialogue. It varies from culture to culture, and so some places look at it as a great opportunity to try to do some new things differently, which I think creates some nice upside opportunity, and some other places look at it and they're not quite sure what to make of it because it's different and it's a change, and so it just takes longer to work our way through. Economically, it's very difficult to ascribe a value to it. I think we're committed to doing something differently. Our management is committed to doing it, and I think over time it will serve us well.
How is the launch of Brilinta going?
Well, Brilinta's on the path that I think we expected it to be on. We get regulatory approval, we need to get pricing approvals, then we need to get access to formularies, we need to get in protocols, and ultimately get access to acute coronary syndrome patients. So it just takes a while. And markets have introduced at different times, therefore the rates of uptake are different. Germany's ahead of the US, but each one is moving along pretty consistently. So I think overall we're satisfied. We have work to do.
And Crestor has had a pretty good year, but what about the launch of generic atorvastatin? Will we see Crestor sales plunge in 2012?
In the United States, the launch of atorvastatin took place at the end of November, so it's been about 2 months. To date, we haven't seen much of an impact on Crestor in terms of total numbers of prescriptions written, which I think is good news. But I believe that it's really early days, and we have to wait for several months to see what the impact will be. So I would say stay tuned. We have a lot to learn yet.
And your diabetes compound, dapagliflozin, do you still think this will be approved?
Well, we received a complete response letter from the FDA in the United States where they asked for some additional data, which we are going to provide. So I think until we have an opportunity to sit with the agency and understand more specifically what they actually want from us, we'll have to wait and see.
And you have had some real disappointments in terms of pipeline failure. So are you confident that you have the right portfolio in place to replace those going off patent? And what are the chances you'll find the next blockbuster?
The products that we introduce from the portfolio vary greatly from time to time. And so I don't think that one axiomatically follows another. I think that the portfolio represents a range of product opportunities in different therapeutic categories which serve different levels of need, from orphan drug needs like Caprelsa over to broad brush needs like Brilinta. And I think the organization has to adapt based on what comes from the portfolio rather than the other way around. As it relates to the next blockbuster, my view on blockbusters is a simple one, which is if a patient takes a drug and it works and it makes them better, it's a blockbuster for that patient. And that's my view of what I think we as a company need to be able to provide to patients.
You've announced some difficult news about employee numbers today. So is this in direct response to recent pipeline disappointments and patent expiries?
Well, no, it's not. I mean, I think we've been in the midst of a restructuring program for the last 6 years. with the expectation that we would re-engineer the direction that the company is going. So these are big impacts, and they impact people, and we take that very seriously because it impacts families and communities, and we don't take it lightly. But in order to be prepared for the future and to have a successful company that can really compete for the next decade, these are the kinds of changes we have to make, and we have to make them now.
And turning to your longer term outlook, you have reduced the contribution you expect from the pipeline. So how can you still be confident about the revenue range that you previously announced?
The revenue range that we provided with our midterm guidance back in 2010 was really intended to give a sense of about where we saw the business going over a 5-year period during patent expirations as well as the introduction of new products. I think that the introduction of new products will always vary just based on regulatory approvals, science, etc. So at this point, we haven't had to change the guidance. We still say we're going to be in the range of $28 to $34 billion. And I believe that we can be there by the end of 2014. We might not be as high up in the range as we want it to be, but I think we'll still be in the corridor.
And what about deals? You have plenty of cash, so why don't you just do a deal to address the gap in the pipeline?
We've done a number of deals over the last few years, and we are continuing to pursue them fairly aggressively. I don't think that we're constrained in any way by cash or by expertise or resources. It's really a question of the marketplace for deals and what kinds of things are really available for us to get done. Our goal is to license in late-stage products which complement our existing pipeline and are in our therapeutic areas. So we have a pretty significant focus on that.
And if you're not going to buy growth, where do you believe future growth can come from?
The big opportunity for growth in the near term, the next 3 or 4 years, is the emerging markets. The development of those markets from an economic perspective creates a nice opportunity for additional demand in healthcare. There will also continue to be demand for biologics, which I think over the last 20 years now have shown that they have a significant role to play in solving more specific diseases for people that are sicker. And then the other area is growth in our portfolio. I mean, the introduction of products like Onglyza and Brilinta, by way of example, represent nice opportunities for us to grow our small molecule business over the course of the next several years.
And you have a strong commitment to returning cash to shareholders. So will this commitment change if your sales continue to decline?
The return to shareholders from a cash perspective is driven by a few different things. Our overall cash generation, free cash flow, pre-R&D spend but post-tax, is about $11 or $12 billion. That gives us a number of opportunities to both invest in the business as well as to return cash to our shareholders. We have, over the last several years, had a progressive dividend policy which has increased the dividend each year and increased the share buyback each year. So the overall return in 2011 at $9.4 billion was very, very significant, and I think it represents the commitment we have to give our shareholders a return for the cash that they give us to invest on their behalf.
For Russia, for our Asia Pacific and emerging markets, is one of the key countries for innovation. We published recently in Nature about how Russia is really advancing on the biomedical innovation funding as well as the ecosystem that's actually starting to evolve. We are seeing areas of strength, for example, the area where we're working with Petrov Institute in oncology. We are working with Russian venture company in the biobank area. So we're really focusing on the key areas of strength within Russia: computational biology, predictive sciences, oncology, cardiovascular disease, the areas which are high unmet need, where Russia has a lot of historical strength when it comes to universities, when it comes to the biotechs which are working in this space. And what we really want to bring in is our expertise to partner with these players. We see Russia really to be part of our core strategy for R&D and innovation and biomedical innovation in 2015. We continue to see more and more opportunities to partner with academia, with local biotechs, with CROs in this space. And what we really see is a lot of innovation will start to come out of Russia over the coming years, especially in the area of oncology and cardiovascular and diabetes. I actually very much enjoyed the Forum of Adam Smith conference. The panel discussion in the morning was very, very involved and very engaging with the audience. I think this platform that Adam Smith has created to bring academic institutions, to bring biotechs, to bring local players, to bring the global industry players, the governments, the investors, in a forum to really have a discussion around how we can create more innovation in Russia, how we can create more opportunities for people to partner with each other and bring more ideas for Russian local market. I think it's a really great opportunity, and I really want to thank Adam Smith for the wonderful conference.